Alright, hello everybody, welcome back to Historian Stitch. It is not Wednesday again, but I am at least doing a how-to video just on a Thursday instead. Hopefully next Wednesday it'll be actually on time. But today, as promised, we are doing needle tatting. This is a particular piece that I've been working on for technically about a week now. It's spread out, it's been a good month or so. But I am making lace for some cuffs and a collar for a shirt that I am making for a particular dress that I will eventually have finished and can show everybody. But this is what we're making. This particular version of tatting is done with a needle. I am using a considerably larger one so that you all can see what I'm doing. Slightly older version than shuttle tatting, which is what most people think of today when they are tatting rather than this version. But as I have said in some of my Facebook posts about this particular topic, I have never been able to figure it out. My mom can do it, but I cannot. So when she bought this and never really sat down to learn how to do it, I asked if I could, and I figured it out within the hour of opening the book. So, I'm going to show you guys how to, hopefully with as much clarity as I figured out from that tatting book that we have. It's basically just a beginner's guide to needle tatting. It came with the needles, you just have to supply the yarn. I will be using red, just so that you guys can actually see it. And I will show you all how to do not only, obviously there are a lot of loops in this, I'll show you all how to do that part as well as the straight sections as well. These straight sections are actually what we are going to start with after I find the beginning of my thread, and we thread the needle. One nice thing about the giant one here, it's going to be much easier to thread than the tiny one I've been using for the white lace there. Now, because of the length of lace I've been using, I tend to double it up a good distance and then pull it out a little farther. This is one version of it where you keep the ball attached. In another version, you would only use, we'll say this is cut off and this is the end, and you would stitch from there. With the way this is done, it will be, you can keep going for a longer period of time. So, how you start this, you wrap it around your thumb, and you have the loop there with your extension over it. Draw your needle through, pull it off, and hold that with your A finger from this hand. Then you wrap it around the opposite direction, pull it up through the loop, pull it tight, and you basically have a slip knot. That's basically all needle tatting is a whole bunch of slip knots tied together. But in this case, give me just a sec. I'm back. Basically, if you notice the computer screen shake at all, it sounded like something slammed downstairs, but it kept echoing out to like the next ridge over, so something possibly exploded, but we don't know what or where. So, pardon the interruption. While sitting here trying to figure out if the noise actually came through on the beginning part of this video, I ended up continuing just a ways. Basically, what we are doing is a straight section. So the looping, having it go round to the left and around your thumb that way, poking up through and tightening, then going to the right, poking up through, tightening, You're doing that the entire time, like I said, with a bunch of slip knots. Once you get the distance you want it to be, I'm going to go a few more here, maybe. Let me if it'll cooperate. Once you get the distance that you need, whether it be by the pattern standards or by your own, I have not been using patterns. I just kind of made whatever I wanted to, just trying to play with it, and then I decided I liked what I was making, so it is turning into the actual lace. But either do what you're told or do what your brain tells you to. Get the length that you want it, and then, unlike with shuttle tatting where you're directly putting the knots into your attached thread, with this one, you are going to drop it down to the end, pull it all the way through without getting the ball attached, and we have a straight section. Looks kind of like a worm in this case, but we have our straight section. To tie it off before you go on to the next section, you are going to, I usually hold what I've just made between my index finger and my thumb, have it wrapped around the top of your finger, and draw your needle through that. We're basically making the beginnings of a granny knot, pull it down, and you have a small knot holding this straight section together. To continue with the next thing attached to this section, you want to leave that knot a little bit loose so that you can poke your needle through it. Kind of like so. Make sure it's still nice and tight to your back section here. And basically, if I let it go, the needle should be attached to our straight section there. For a loop, you're going to go through, make the required and or desired length that you need for a loop, as we are doing here. I have just done 3 stitches. Your stitches in this case are each slip knot, so you can separate them out again and actually show you all. I have 3 here plus the one at the very end where it is attached to the straight. That one doesn't get counted in the stitching process. Sorry, there have been a lot of interruptions thus far, but it'll be fine. This first one doesn't get counted because once you pull your needle through, that one's going to disappear. It is just going to tie it into the straight section and we won't have to worry about it. So I am going to do another 3. We'll say we do a 6 here. And then we will make our first loop. Once we make the loop, I will then show you guys how to do the decorative loops. So, without spilling my tea, we have our straight sections, we have our loops, and then we have loops within the loops. We will be doing those next. And then I will send you all on your merry way. One nice thing about this version of tatting, you can use a big needle like this, where you can actually hold on to the sucker, or you can use a smaller one. I sat down and used an embroidery needle, not an embroidery needle, shoot, what are they called? I can't remember the name of it at the moment. They're the metal needles, they're about yay big, very blunt. But the eye of the sucker is about yay long as well. It takes up nearly half the needle. You can use those. You can also use some of the other ones as well, as long as they are long enough to hold, obviously, your desired length. Now I have our 6 stitches here drawn to the end. We're going to pull it all the way off, but make sure your finger is within that loop. We want to do that for a purpose, because once you get it wrapped around your finger, you're going to draw your needle through it now. Oh, I got it all sorts of twisted. Draw your needle through it, pull it tight as it will allow you, preferably, because the tighter it is, the better your loop looks. I am realizing I don't have the right size thread for this particular needle. That's problematic. But we have a loop. To tie off your loop, you do the same thing as you did with the straight section of drawing your needle through it again and making the beginnings of your granny knot. Once it is tied down, draw your needle through that beginning knot again, and we can start on the next section. Rather than doing this section in a loop, I will do it in, rather doing the decorative loops in the bigger loop here, like I said I might do, I'm going to do it in a straight section so you all will be able to see it easier, and I'm hoping that this is making far more sense than I feel like it is. So we're going to do 3 stitches. 2, 3. And then we will do a loop. Now the size of your decorative loop is easiest to gauge by your finger, mainly because you do your first stitch and you are going to pull it up to your finger. Now, however wide you leave it, so I'm going to make it about yay wide for a bigger loop, that is where it needs to stay on the rest of your finger throughout the rest of your stitching. I'm then going to leave my finger there and make a slip knot again. There is an obvious distance between this one and that one. So that that loop doesn't suddenly disappear on me, I will do a second, pull it tight, and we have our first little decorative loop there. Just to keep things even, I will either do 1 stitch, a loop, another stitch, a loop, or I might do 3 stitches, a loop, 3 stitches, a loop. That way they are evenly done and don't look quite so just thrown together. Obviously, your instructions and patterns are going to tell you exactly what you need to do. I will do another 2 stitches here. We'll do that 3 loop, 3 loop. But again, you put your finger down, make a stitch, do another stitch, pull tight, and now we have 2 loops that are relatively the same size. Using my finger as a gauge is easiest for me, at least, because you can feel exactly where it's going to be every time in your finger. If you are also like me, though, and starting to lose feeling in parts of your finger from sewing, there are technically other ways you can do it as well. They are stated in the beginner's guide book. Because I figured it out and am still technically playing with it, even though I'm not using directions anymore. I haven't quite used that version yet, but I might one day actually sit down and do this properly. But that is basically a quick and dirty way of doing needle tatting. If you want to learn about the history a little bit more about this particular sewing craft, go to our Facebook page. It is Historian Stitch. Or I will be reposting that particular, technically, blog post up on our website, which is www.historianstitch.com. We do have things for sale on there. I am about to be putting up scarves in that list as well as church dolls. Church dolls will probably be an entire subject all their own on Facebook and the blog post on there. Um, if only because they are a child's toy that never goes out of style, especially if you get tired of the very loud, obnoxious toys that are sold in stores today. So, with that being said, I will figure out what we are doing next time. Not quite sure what we're going to do yet, so that'll be an adventure all its own. Um, but I will talk to y'all then. Uh, Possibly doing a post on Friday, so look out for that on Facebook, and I will see y'all next time. Have a good night.